Okay, live stream is up and running, or that's the plan anyway. Let's see how we go. I'm going to turn the volume up. I noticed on the video last night this was very, very quiet for the airplane, so I'm going to make it a bit louder this evening. So, where are we flying? We are flying through the hills from Polson all the way up to West Kootenay. So you can see, if we look on the map, if I just change the map to make it more obvious. So we're taking off from Montana, and then we're flying out across the airfields, and we cross over the border briefly into the top of Idaho, and then we cross over the Canadian border before going into it's British Columbia, isn't it? Yes. And down into West Kootenay. So it doesn't look like much on this map, but as soon as we pull up the terrain view, we can see we've got lots of hills to deal with along the way, which should make it a bit more interesting. So I'll leave that on the screen in LittleNavMap. We'll go and run Navigraph at the same time. So we'll go in here, flight plan, copy that to the clipboard. We'll open Navigraph and we'll unload the flight plan, do a new flight, and paste this in as a route and get rid of the speed and altitude information. And it's got it wrong, look. Because, yeah, so as soon as you go to backwards airstrips, Navigraph tends to get it wrong because it hasn't got all of the smaller airstrips. So we're going to be sticking to LittleNavMap for that very reason. So let's see how we get on. Just going to turn my own volume up slightly so I can hear myself. Actually, this is interesting. I can't hear myself in my headphones. Bear with me a moment. I have to remember how to do this. Launch the G-Hub. I think this has had a driver update and it hasn't. Yeah, it's turned down. For some reason the side tone isn't working. The sound picked up by your headset microphone is then played back in real time, so I should hear myself. Okay, yeah, it's working. Oh no, it's working now. Oh, it wants me to go and have a look at all the new features before it will actually leave anything alone. So I'll leave that running in the background. Okay, let's go and get in the airplane and get it up and running. So we're in well, I'd call it the Islander, but actually this is the Defender, the new version, the turbine version. So actually we don't want those on yet. We're going to go and pop the yoke off. We're going to put the external power on. Go and put the beacon light on, put the batteries on, and look overhead, make sure, yes, the tanks are on, put the auxiliary fuel pumps on, and we should be almost there. So if we go and look on the map, it should have our route already on it, and it has. So we'll zoom out a bit on the map. Okay. So we need to go and get the engine up and running. So we'll go and put the ignition on, or put it to start I should say. And we'll go right engine first. Keep an eye on the RPM. When it gets out towards nearly 20% RPM, we'll advance the fuel condition lever. If we look out, let's see the propeller start spinning. Should we put the head tracking on as well? So now the engine's up and running, we'll turn on generator. So the igniters can go to off for that engine. and then we can go left engine, and we'll keep an eye on the RPM as it climbs. Get ready to advance the fuel condition lever on engine number 1, or the left engine. Okay, let's go and check the volume levels. So my microphone should be coming out through okay. Okay, let's, so if I go and put this back to normal, why is the side tone not working? They've changed the drivers again, haven't they? How strange. Bear with me a second. Okay. So, is it working okay now? I can't actually, obviously I can't hear the entire stream sound back myself. So this is using this thing called Blue Voice, whatever that is. So if I get rid of it, okay, so is it working okay now? How very odd, if it is being weird. It should be okay. Looking at the levels here, see, I have no way of testing this. And I'm taking it on trust that it's coming through at your end okay. I have turned the engine up a bit, so hopefully there isn't a problem with the microphone. So yeah, usually it would come through about between -5 and -10. That's what I usually aim for. How strange. So maybe it is being okay. I'll just go and check that once again on the driver for the microphone again. So I don't usually have this Blue Voice on. This is really odd. It should be playing this back through my headphones all the time. It's only doing it if I leave this on this tab. Very odd. Anyway, I'm going to leave that on that tab and just minimize it. I don't think you can hear it. It's just feeding it back through my own speakers. Okay, so I'm going to minimize that out of the way. So we've got the engines up and running. So nav lights can go on. What else do we need to do? We don't need any anti-ice. It's a lovely day. We've got outside air temperature up here. It's about 18 degrees outside. We're going to put the weather radar on, not that we're going to really need it. So we'll put it on weather mode. Or do we have to go standby first? I think we do. Test. And then weather mode. And put it on, say, 25 mile range. The navigation map is already up and running. Okay, do we have a windsock here? Yes, we do. So we need to taxi down to the far end. The microphone above my mouth slightly so my breath doesn't hit it. Okay, there's the microphone. sorry, the windsock. I'm obsessed with microphones now. Moves the flaps to takeoff position. Parking brake on, fuel control to full, and landing lights on. External supply should have come off already. We haven't put the left gen on yet. Let's go and put the strobes on as well. We don't need the ignitions or igniters on anymore on the left engine. Okay. And we're in the air. Coming up to 100 knots. Flaps up, and we need to do an about turn to follow our route out. Someone needs to clean that window, don't they? So I wonder what's wrong with the microphone then. I'm going to try unplugging it in again. Let me just try something. Okay, is that working? No. Is that working? That should be working. So this is very, very odd. It's never done this before. So if I put it a bit closer to my mouth, it shouldn't be turned around, but maybe it is. Is that better? Okay, so we're running at about 75% power, which you can see down here. It's got plenty of torque left, but then this is kind of an exponential gauge. Look, it goes to 600 centigrade on the temperatures, and then it goes up through the final range over half of the gauge. The torque is a linear gauge. The propeller speed is automatically governed. Should we go and put this on the clever screen that shows the map on it as well? Or just have the black version? Okay, so hopefully I am coming through fine. Like as I said, I can't judge it myself. I can turn the aeroplane down a little bit. So, first destination this evening, if you have a look at the map, is Lakeside. So we're just coming up over Flathead Lake in towards Lakeside. So this is 2020. Just seeing the live stream comments, someone's asking if I'm running 2020 or 2024. So we're about halfway towards Lakeside. We're going to do touch and goes all the way along. Okay, this is really bizarre. Normally I can hear my own voice in the speakers, and for some reason this has started up today and it's not letting me hear it. So I'm sounding incredibly dull to myself, obviously because I've got headphones on. I think the Pro X isn't quite working unless I do this. That should remember that, but it isn't doing so. I'll leave it on. Hopefully it won't affect the sound coming through at your end. I think there's a bug in the Pro X drivers. Should we descend down a little bit? So this first part of the trip is quite easy, but then we're going to be heading into the hills in a bit. You can see we're going to do a left turn and head directly into those hills over there. So we'll stay fairly low for the rest of the trip. Okay, so what are we going to get in the way of wind? So 20 knot wind, what's happening on the ground? 150 degrees, 12 knots. So there's a crosswind actually on the ground, runway 19 we're looking for. are we doing? So it's just off to our left, in the trees over there somewhere. Here it is, look, you just see it popping out of the trees right in front of us. So we're going to configure for our touch and go. Just out of interest, does this have anything in the way of spoilers as well as the flaps? No, it just relies on these barn door flaps. I'm just side slipping to try and lose a little bit of height and speed at the same time. So it's wallowing around like as it falls from the sky. Full throttle, flaps back to takeoff. We're in the air, I'm keeping the nose low for the moment to get some speed up. Flaps up. Okay. So, do a 270-degree turn, and then we carry on into the hills. Is it faster? So I'm being asked a question in the live stream. Is this version of the aircraft faster than the piston version? Yes, if you run the engines. So I'll run it for a while at high torque. So we're now running it at 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, essentially. So we'll keep an eye on. So the gas producer is going flat out. Fuel flow is obviously high because we're running it fast. So if I level out, so we're running level, and you can see we're edging towards 150 knots. In level flight, so it's quick, or quicker than it used to be, but it can also hang on its wing just like it used to as well. So I'm going to pull the throttle back. Should we have a play with the autopilot? I haven't really played with it much yet. So if we go and put the autopilot on and then give ourselves a target altitude, so we're at 5,500. Let's go and set our target altitude for, say, 7,500 maybe. and we'll say vertical speed to get there. So watch the vertical speed here. We'll go for 1500 feet a minute if the airplane starts behaving. That's interesting, look, it's not picking up much vertical speed regardless of what I dial in. If we go, we're in GPS mode at the moment, so we could go for heading mode. So if we press the heading knob, then the heading marker will align and we can go for heading mode, which will be shown over here. So we're in autopilot on with vertical speed at 1000 feet a minute. So let's go for altitude hold now. So it's done it at 6,300 feet. So if we wanted to, we could change the heading a few degrees to the left and put it back onto the GPS track. Zoom out here, we'll see the route. So let's come back off the autopilot. It's no fun, is it, autopilot? We want to see how this thing behaves. So I'm going to pull the throttle back and descend. Watch the speed climb. Or not, it's quite a draggy aeroplane, so it won't accelerate that fast in a steep descent. Let's see what it can do in the way of climbing. If we stay close to the trees and follow the nap of the hill on the way up the hill. So watch the airspeed and see how much the airspeed falls off. So you can see the attitude indicator here coming up to 5 degrees and coming up for 15 degrees nose up, and the speed isn't falling off dramatically, look. So it can climb. So we're doing the roller coaster route across the hilltops. So we'll do the same again up this next hill. And obviously we can turn away from the hill if we're getting into dangerous territory with the throttles, or with the thrust, I should say. Okay, so let's go full throttle. And let's hold it just above 10-degree climb. And the speed is coming off, but it isn't coming off disastrously so. Look, we're easily going to get to the hilltop. Let's pull the nose up. It can climb like nobody's business. That was a 15-degree sustained climb it was doing. Try it out for a bit more extreme. So coming down to the trees, full throttle. It's like a roller coaster, isn't it? It does feel very it is moving around the entire time. Okay, so the airfield we should be heading for is over the other side of this hill. So just turning over towards it, so you can see it on the map here, look. 97 MT. So if you have a look on the map, that's Cabin Creek Landing. So it's on the edge of this little lake. So if we go full throttle, pop over the top of this hill. We're actually accelerating, look, in about a 7.5 degree climb. Okay, that will be our runway down there in the trees. So, taking the wind into consideration, yeah, so we're coming in direct from this side for the wind. So we're almost down to 110 knots, which is flap speed. So we'll just lift the nose over here. There we go. Cut the trees here, haven't they, on the approach, which is useful. It's a bit of a crosswind, you can see we're crabbing slightly. Left wheel down first. So I'll leave the flaps on full and look at it lift. That's holding the same attitude and it's kicking itself into the air just by using the deflected thrust off the flaps. It's impressive, isn't it? Okay, so we're going over the top of these hills. On for the next one, which is 34 miles away. Should we go through this creek over here? Okay, so autopilot on. and it's still in heading mode, isn't it? So let's go and put it into nav mode and see what it makes of that. So will it come back towards the track? No, it won't. So if we put it into heading mode, oops. So we've still got 7,500 as a target altitude. So if we go vertical speed to get there, and I don't miss the knob with the mouse. So we've asked for 800 feet per minute. Let's go for a bit more than that. 1,000 feet per minute. So you can see that's hit 1,000 feet per minute on the autopilot. And we are on within 1 dot now of the CDI. So if we go to nav mode, it's staying on heading mode. Look, it's not close enough. This is what I wanted to have a play with, just to see how it behaves. So let's put it on a more distinct track or an intercept to the CDI. The flight director works well. It's got a lovely velocity vector as well. You can see it wandering around in the wind. So we're almost back onto the CDI. So let's go nav mode. So it's saying heading and GPS, which means it just hasn't hit the track yet, I guess. So it will probably drop heading. There it goes. Once it gets close enough, and it's turning in, look, towards the track to capture it. So we'll do an S shape and it'll turn left now and join the course. So it's just doing it gently. Very good. Okay, so if we zoom out, oh, I keep pressing things that are the wrong buttons at the moment. I'm not doing well tonight. And I've done it again. And I've done it again. This is the problem with head tracking and aeroplanes that move around a lot. I imagine it's the same problem with real aircraft with touchscreens. This is why they, the armed forces have moved away from touchscreens in many of their aircraft, or I know the Navy has. Because if you're on a platform that's moving around, touchscreens are a bit of a nightmare. So this aeroplane doesn't look as photographic as some of the other aeroplanes available in the sim, but the plus side, and this is true of all of the black box simulations aircraft, is everything works really nicely. So all of the breakers work, and there's lots and lots to play with, and they have got the beginnings of a tablet in here as well. So it's not a tablet, it's pulled up as a dialogue, which I don't mind at all. But that gives you options to put things like drop tanks on it, and rescue pods, and the covers if you're on the ground, just for a bit of fun. You can interlock the doors or open the doors if they're unlocked. The checklists are in here, and apparently they've fixed this now, so we're going to get the docs are going to come up. There we go. They've done a really nice job with this, haven't they? That's good. There was a bug fix on this. In the initial release version there was a small bug in this, so it's really good to see that fixed. And some of the locations of these dialogues was a little bit broken. They still overlap strangely, but I guess it's tailored for bigger screens. So I'm running at 1080p on purpose. But yeah, it's good. So we're at 7,500 feet, flying along happily. We don't need the landing lights on, do we? I've left them on at the moment because we were busy airfield hopping. So as you can see on the throttles, we're running at about 70%, 75% throttle. So if I pull it back to 50%, the interesting thing is to watch the fuel flow to see how much different levels of power, so torque, use different amounts of fuel. I've not read the book yet to know what are the most efficient numbers to run at. So if we go back to 70%, look, the torque takes a while, the fuel flow creeps up a bit, but if we go to full throttle, obviously you're going to see that last 30% of throttled movement is quite a chunk of fuel flow. Okay, how are we doing? We're halfway there to the next airfield. S59 is 18 miles away from us through these hills. So let's have a look. You can see, look, since we went on the GPS, absolute arrow straight line. So we're coming in towards Libby, S59, or 59er, if you want to go by the old radio telephony standards. I should sit up a bit, shouldn't I, to keep pace with the guy next to me. So we've got the fuel tanks overhead. Obviously you've got outer tanks and inner tanks, and it feeds from the outer tanks first. I think once the engines are up and running, you can turn the auxiliary fuel pumps off. You just won't have as much fuel pressure. But I'm going to leave them on. You can open the windows. It'll make a hell of a racket though. So if you've got head tracking, you can play silly games of poking your head out to see how to get your hair cut on the propeller. Okay, the landscape's changing. Look, the trees are going away in part, so we're starting to get... Now it's difficult to tell from up here whether that's dried grass or rock. So heading in towards Libby. So wind at Libby is 240 degrees, 8 knots. So it's going to be quite a strong crosswind coming in runway 33, but not too bad. We'll have a play with crosswind landing technique on the way in then. See how we get on with that. So it must be just the other side of this ridge down in the valley beyond. So it's 12.5 miles away. If we zoom in a little bit, you can see it there, look. So we've got to cross over this next ridge and it should just be across the way. We're running on live weather and live time, by the way, so this is what the flight simulator thinks it's like in this part of the world today. What's the outside air temperature at 7,500 feet? 5 degrees centigrade. So obviously lower down it's going to be a lot warmer. Yeah, I've had all of the, I'm just reading the live stream comments, I've had all of the black box aeroplanes in the past. So yeah, full disclosure, black box actually approached me at the start of this week and said, would you like they called it a press copy of the aeroplane to show on the channel? Because obviously I'm going to show it to people and then people might be interested. But I've actually purchased all of their previous aeroplanes myself, so. I often feel a little bit guilty when developers give me an aeroplane But even though amongst the planes I've bought, like the recent Aerosoft A330, I try not to be too negative about things. I mean, sometimes it is warranted that, you know, planes just aren't very good, but I'm also aware that an awful lot of effort goes into them. And it fascinates me. I don't build aeroplanes, so it fascinates me what the difference is between this level of finish and the kind of finish that the likes of Coronado managed to achieve. I wonder what their tool set is that they're using, or, you know, what the difference is, or whether it is just an awful lot more polygons. It's just like tiny little things, like the screw heads here. On some of the aeroplanes, they would be each, you know, 3D structure of a screw head, but these aren't. These are pictures. It doesn't make a huge amount of difference to the flying of the aeroplane, but it's just those tiny little bits and pieces. And yeah, like the surrounds of the dials, just that look a little bit pixelated. But again, doesn't affect actually flying the aeroplane. And the huge payoff with the black box simulations aeroplanes is that they fly wonderfully. Okay, so we can see the airfield directly ahead of us, so we're going to head over the side of this hill, so autopilot off. And we're going to come in with a crosswind, but we'll try and descend over the bottom of the valley down here, and then turn in for an approach. So anyone that's new to flying, there's two basic methods for crosswind approaches. You can either crab the aircraft throughout the approach, so you're pointing off, you know, one way or the other away from the runway axis, or you can side slip on purpose, so you use the rudder to keep the aeroplane on the axis of the runway, and then you dip the wing to translate the aeroplane left or right, so you keep the aeroplane pointed to the runway direction. Now if you can master it, and if you've got good enough rudder control, see, I'm only using a twist stick, so it's a bit tricky for me, but if you've got good enough rudder control and you can master side slip landings, it means the aeroplane is straight when you touch the runway. Whereas the other technique, where you're crabbing, the correct way to do it is to straighten the aeroplane to the runway at the moment it loses lift. So as you touch the runway, you straighten the aeroplane up very quickly. But that requires an awful lot of experience of the aeroplane to know how much you should do it. And some people don't straighten the aeroplane up at all, and that's why they go skittering off across the runway in a crosswind, because they land crabbed. The tires grab the tarmac and shoot them off the side of the runway. But it's yeah, it's good fun to try the different techniques out. So I've pulled the flaps down a little bit fast. But the drag from the flaps is now slowing us down. So you can see, look, crabbing, the nose is a long way off to the left side of the runway direction. So what we can do, hopefully, is use the rudder to point the aeroplane in the same direction as the runway, and then we go left wing down to go left, or right wing down to go right. But we keep using the rudder to keep the aeroplane pointed the right direction. Yeah, so even in this crosswind, you can see the windsock there is horizontal, look. Even in this crosswind, we're pointing the aeroplane straight down the runway. We just need to bank either way to move left or right. Yeah, I was a little bit off to the left there, look, with the nose, which caused the aeroplane to skitter across. And if I let go of the rudder, look, the nose immediately goes to the left as the airplane tries to weathercock slightly. So I'm feeding in an elevator. As the flaps come up, the plane's going very nose heavy until it gets enough speed for the lift to be generated. So I'm feeding in a lot of elevator at the moment. If I put the yoke on, you'll see me doing it. So yeah, I'm actually pulling back quite significantly until we get to about 120, 130 knots, at which point I won't have to anymore. Okay, next leg. But yeah, I think the more satisfying landing to get right is if you crab it until the airplane loses lift over the runway, and then you bring it straight to the runway in that last couple of feet as it touches down. If you can get that right, it's always the most satisfying way to do it. And that's the way you often see the big jets come in, is they will fly in crabbed, and at the last moment there'll be a boot full of rudder to bring the airplane straight to the runway. But again, it's just experience. The only reason I really got into all these different techniques is about a year ago I bought a set of books from Poolies on the internet, who are a flight training and resources shop, and I went through the airmanship course basically in the first few books of doing, you know, all of the standard maneuvers you would do in flight training. So, you know, recovery from unusual attitudes and stalls and spins and flying circuits accurately, but also crosswind landings and short field landings, all sorts of different things. And yeah, it was good fun to go through the book and try to do things in the simulator by the book, you know, using proper techniques and considerations. And admittedly, I don't use a lot of it all the time because we're flying around for fun. Otherwise, we wouldn't be flying near these valleys. And we'd be scoping out landing points in case of an engine failure, and we'd have an idea in the back of our head all the time. But we're not doing any of that. We're just having a bit of fun flying around. So let's go down the right side. So I'm just looking at the map. The river obviously cuts across through here, so I'm going to follow it. If you have a look at the map over here, yeah, you can see it here, look. There is a route through. Should be quite spectacular. Should we try and get down to the river? It's in the bottom of the trees down there somewhere. Yeah, we're not going to be able to see it, are we? It's obscured. So obviously the attitude indicator comes into its own when you have no view of the horizon to know what way up you are. So do we have to climb out of here, is the question. So we're already climbing at 5 degrees, and that's looking significantly steep up there, so we need to have a strategy. We can go round, but ideally we want to go over this ridge. So I've gone full throttle, and we're going to test out this thing's climbing ability once again. So we could go the long way round, which will be up through there, or we can cut straight through here. I think we'll be fine. Yes, it's holding on to 120 knots with ease on this climb. So we ideally want to go right then, not left. There's some water gathered in the top of this hill. We need to pop it over the top of the other side though. So we'll look from outside in a moment. We'll just get this safe. You can see it catching the air coming up the side of the mountain as we crested the ridge there. So down on the river over here, the airfield's going to be over here somewhere, alongside the river. I've not done any stall tests or anything with this aeroplane yet. We could try one here, couldn't we? We're out in the middle of nowhere. If we stay level, we've got altitude. Let's try it. So we're going to cut the throttle to idle. We'll keep a slight nose up pitch to bleed the air off quickly, bleed the speed off quickly. So I've got a lot of back stick. We're getting near the limit. I've got no flaps. So that's 80 knots. I'm at full elevator deflection. And it's just mushing gently towards the ground. Okay, so let's go. Let it get some speed up. Pull the nose up. And make it stall on purpose. So is it going to, or is it just going to mush? It's just going to mush back down again, isn't it? What about if we're turning at the same time that we do it? So let's get some power back on. So let's put some rudder in at the same time that we stall it. It won't drop a wing. And I imagine part of the reason for that are these enormous fences on the wing, which are obviously catching the air. Okay, so where's the airfield that we're heading for? It's right in front of us, somewhere down here. Is it alongside the road and we just can't, it hasn't quite resolved it yet enough to show us? Oh, it's over here, I can see it. It's in the area of cut down trees. So, what we got in terms of wind on the way in? So, it's in the lee of the hill, so although we're experiencing 25 knots here, 9 knots on the ground. But again, it's from 250 degrees, so crosswind 9 knots. So what we'll do, we'll circle left just to lose some height. There's the airfield. camping field down there? Looks like it, doesn't it? The runway. How are we doing for speed? Yeah, we can get the flaps down. Let's have a look at those landing lights, shall we, from outside? They're on the ends of the wings. Look at it moving around in the air. It doesn't fly in a straight line. It really is, it floats. Okay, so we'll try and crab this one, yeah? We'll hold the nose off to the left until it loses lift and then try to straighten it up at the last moment. So we'll hold it just off the ground as it loses speed. Oh, that wind is quite turbulent over these trees. Look at the windsocks, it's sideways. That wind is really playing havoc with us. There we go. No, not quite. I was a bit late. And those magic elevator barn doors do their trick again, look. That was a bit of a fairground ride with gusts of wind coming in across the airfield. I know I'm not going to try and go under the bridge. So if someone send the microphones in mono. I've been having problems with the microphone tonight. I don't know why. It's been behaving very strangely. I'll have to have a play with it later and see what's going on with it. Okay, I've turned the app off for the moment. Let me just check the levels that are coming through on OBS. Yeah, so the headset's coming through okay. But it is only coming through mono, you're right. But it, oh, so it would only be a mono microphone. Okay, that sounds better, doesn't it? But it's still only mono. But that has fixed the problem with me being able to hear it. Okay, how are we doing? So we're carrying on along the river now, and it will take us to Boundary County. So let's see if we can get down low to the water down here. Not the thing to be doing on a windy day, really, but gives us something to do, doesn't it, along the way. It crabbing sideways in the wind. How are we doing on the route? So a little bit further along the river. This should take us straight to the next airfield. But islanders are so capable in terms of getting you out of trouble if you need to. So we literally could just open the throttles up and climb like crazy if we wanted to. Well, I'll show you. So if I go full power, I'll wait for the torque to rise, and we can get ourselves out of trouble as quickly as that. And look, it's not dropping speed very quickly. And then just level it out over the top, hold it there, pull the throttle back, and we're cruising again. If we pull the throttles back down, wait for the torque to drop off, and we can side slip it outside of the corner and drop it back into the river. So it's definitely not an aeroplane you can just point and leave it. You have to be controlling it the entire time. So we've got a 90-degree corner coming up in the river. So we're going to get ready for that one. So where is the airfield? It's up above this bluff by the look of it. So let's go and get some speed on. And we're about to find out. And there's the airfield. I'm guessing. Or is that just the town? Oh no, the airfield's further across. Okay. Somewhere in these trees is an airfield. Has anybody seen an airfield? It's gorgeous scenery around here, isn't it? So it's just off of our left wing somewhere. I can see a beacon flashing over here. Okay, it was just further away than we thought. So is there any traffic on the road? Let's go and buzz the cars and see what's down here. Okay, can anybody see a windsock? Eyes peeled. Obviously in the real world we'd be looking for an ATIS or talk to the tower, but there's a windsock. We're going the right direction, so we need to double back. Lost sight of the airfield.
Oh, that would explain everything about the webcam microphone. Yes, I hadn't thought of that. Because it wasn't specifically using. That explains why the G-Hub, the Logitech G-Hub wasn't working. Because it wasn't using this microphone. How strange. Yeah, it's one of the vagaries of Windows, I'm afraid, that you can boot up one day and everything's fine, boot up the next and Windows has decided that all of your default devices have changed. There was a Windows update last night, so that would explain it. Did you see that suddenly drop out of the sky? There was a bit of wind shear going on there, and the airplane just suddenly sat down. Or maybe it's gusting wind conditions, who knows? There, look at it go. It just fell again. The windsock dropped and the aeroplane dropped like a stone. Look at it bouncing. I raised the flaps to take off normal takeoff configuration while we were still accelerating, and the wind was gusting as we did it, and we went down the runway like a pogo stick. Brilliant. That just says everything about how good the flight model is on this. That with gusting wind into our face, we were losing and gaining lift as we accelerated. And obviously I had no margin. I was lifting it off the ground to see how it would behave, and it was great. Okay, so off over the lake over here. So let's go and put autopilot back on for a bit. Actually, not just yet. Let's go and make sure the modes are correct. So we're in a GPS mode at the moment. So, and we are within a notch of the route. So it's going to acquire the route. Let's go for altitude hold. So I've gone for altitude hold, so the vertical speed has been wound down. It's centering the CDI very strongly. So then it's turning left at any moment, hopefully. Yeah, here it goes. Look, it's rejoining the route. So if we go and have a look, we've got 18 miles to run till the next airport. So we can have a look outside now while it's trundling along on the autopilot. Get rid of that last bit of flap. So even with the autopilot on, the wind is chucking it around. It's a bit turbulent today. And the reason for that is we got a 10 knot tailwind, okay. So this is the Kootenay River. So we're about to go over the border into Canada. So at the moment, I thought we were going to pass into Washington briefly, but we're not, are we? It's going to go over the border into Canada directly here. I thought we might cross over. I think I may have changed the route earlier when I was looking at maybe including some other airfields along the way and changed my mind. Maybe coming across this way. But then I spotted this valley and thought it might make a nice route to fly up from Creston up to Balfour and then in via the river to Nelson. Let's turn the head tracking off for a moment. Interesting the way the glass is done. Should we go and have a look at it? Oh, that's what causes the flickering then from the inside, and the heat from the engine obviously is pouring past it. That's very cool, isn't it? That is so obvious. So these are the bubbles. So you're able to, yeah, if you get your head position right, you can actually see where you're going and still be inside the aeroplane and see the heat pouring out of the exhaust. Anyway. Let's pull the throttles back. We're absolutely racing the engines. So, while we're flying along here, interestingly, this is still climbing gently up towards 7,500 feet, which I didn't command, but let's go and set the altitude selection back to 4,000 maybe. And we'll say vertical speed to get there, 1,000 feet a minute, so you should see that happen. So we're just watching this to see the rate. These are custom-built instruments, by the way, that black box simulations have made, and they're replicas of real-world instruments. So they've got many different modes on them. You can simplify them if you wish. Same as with this, you can show the enhanced HSI or just the map, or the HSI on its own. So the enhanced HSI obviously has a map. I'm not sure how you change the zoom level when it's on enhanced mode. I haven't read the book on it yet, so I'll have to find that one out. So this will be our next stop. Have a look on the map. This is Creston. So if we come off the autopilot, the wind is from the southwest. What's the wind on the bottom of the valley though? So we got 4 knots. So we'll go and do a left pattern and come in the other end of the runway. So let's go and put the head tracking back on. Trying to get the airspeed down a little bit as we come downwind. We'll drop down. What's the actual airfield elevation? So 2,000 feet. So we want to be at 3.5 ideally for the circuit. So we're just coming down. So that's 1,500 feet above ground level. Okay. So we want to drop to 1,000 feet above ground level, which will be 3,000 feet. So let's do that. Then we'll make our left turn to 240 degrees. Then once we straighten up at 240, we should be able to spot the runway. There it is. Holding at 3,000 feet, so we're still 1,000 feet. We're a bit high, but normally you'd be looking for 500 feet as you turn in. Well, once you complete this turn, so if we descend in the turn, we'll be okay. Yeah, so we're a little bit high. Oh, look at the kick that those flaps give you. It's amazing, isn't it? What's that in the field over there? It's an odd texture on the ground. So we'll try and hold between 70 and 80 knots if we can. The airplane's being kicked around. Look at the wind pushing us. It's gusting. I guess that was the wind over the trees there. Obviously once we're now over the flat area of the ground, it's a lot more stable. But the wind's coming in from the other side of there, so that's probably going to hit us as well. I was late again on rotating the airplane back onto runway direction, so it's a bit sluggish. Okay, so if we just turn the airplane then to the right direction we're going, or that we want to be going. We'll just loop around in this valley. Have a look around before we depart. So we want to go up the lake, don't we? So maybe we're not going to go nav mode, we're going to go heading mode on the autopilot. So we'll go and pre-select that. So it should show over here, heading. And we'll get the airplane pointed roughly the right direction. Trim it out slightly. Then press the heading button. And then hit the autopilot, and then just go for altitude hold at the altitude we're at, which will be fine, and pull the throttle back a bit. Flaps are already up. And go and put the... We'll actually do things a bit more correctly for a while, shall we? Go and put the landing lights back off. And say goodbye to that airfield. There's our semi-correct circuit. So we're going to fly up the water and then in through past Balfour, Harrop, Crescent Bay, Willow Point into Nelson. Let's have a close look at Nelson then. So, oh, there's a Safeway. We'll get some shopping while we're there. So we'll come into Nelson. What's the wind doing on the ground at Nelson? Variable 2 knots. So it's so secluded, tucked down in this valley, there's no wind. And then we'll continue on low along the waterway towards West Kootenay. So let's have a close look at that one as well. It's a bit of a bigger airport. So if we have a look at it, variable 2 knots again on the wind. Very good. Should we switch some of the options on the aeroplane just so you get to see them? So if we go and open the panel up, we'll put the rescue pods on the outer pylons. We'll put the camera on the nose. So I don't think it gives you anything extra in the cockpit for the camera, which is a bit of a shame. I'm sure those cables weren't there previously, but unless I look behind us, no, there's no surveillance kit in the back of the aeroplane. That's a shame, isn't it? So let's have a look, go and put the drop tanks on. And how about the reconnaissance pods instead? Interesting. That's obviously part of the military kit, because you get several military liveries with it. So let's get rid of all of that kit. Okay, so we've got 30 miles to run in. As the crow flies, obviously we're going to go around the corner and follow the waterway. Yeah, apologies about the microphone earlier. As I said, it's very difficult for me to tell other than taking my headset off and plugging it into a second computer, watching the stream to try and figure out what's going on. And we've all seen the curveballs that Windows can throw at us after an update, where it just decides to reprogram all of the sound settings. So typically it affects Discord, it affects OBS, it can affect all sorts of things. I haven't tried flying this on a single engine yet. Should we try it? See if we can do an air start of an engine. So we'll leave it on autopilot and we'll shut down an engine and feather it. So the autopilot should try to... Yeah, look, we've feathered it already. Very good, and it's feathered the blades properly. So to get it started, let's go and do this. So we'll go back to ignition is already on. So we should just be able to restart, and you'll see the RPM hopefully come up. Can we air start it? Yeah. So we don't need the starter. but we do need to change direction slowly. A few people have asked over the time I've been messing around with this aeroplane since yesterday, could they see it in low light conditions? So if we go and advance the time into the evening. Okay, so it's quite dim in the cockpit now. Let's go and turn some of the lighting on. So we got cabin lights here, which are just these. Oh no, that isn't those, sorry. Oh, that'll be the cabin at the back, won't it, I imagine. Let's have a look. Cockpit lighting, there we go. So we get the red lights at the corners of the cockpit, but you've also got lighting of the instruments, which I can never remember where this is. Is this it? Yeah. So you've now got some backlighting of the various instruments from these little stalks all over the place. If we have a look from outside, let's go and put the landing lights back on so we can actually see the really bright lights, and then obviously you've got the position lights and nav lights. I'm not sure if it has a light underneath, no. It's got a light on the tail, and obviously it's got the rotating beacon on top of the tail. So you can see them strobing as well now and again. There we go. So we got a problem going on here. Oil on the right engine. That was the one that we shut down, wasn't it? N1 a low speed. Interesting. So did it not start properly? No, it didn't. So I've been running on one engine for the last little while. So ignition is on. Oh, we got no external supply. So can we do an air start is the question. I don't suppose we can. What about if we go continuous ignition? And if we... It's not going to have it, is it? So prop speed will come up. That's just the airflow because we've taken out a feather. So can we start it then once it's already in? Apparently not. Or maybe you need to go faster downhill to get it to air start it. Or maybe it's not simulated and we've caused ourselves a bit of a problem. So let's try something. I'm going to take it off of autopilot. Let's turn the starter back off for the moment. We've got the starter would just spin it up. So we've got the ignition on continuous. So what I'm going to do is climb and then dive to try and increase the propeller speed. So obviously, if it's just freewheeling, the propeller speed is being governed by our airspeed, which isn't great at the moment. So I'm just going to climb gently, 500 feet a minute. can just about hold that. 80 knots. While we're flying along the lake here. And then we'll put it into a dive to hopefully get the propeller speed up. Oh, it's the one we really need is this gas producer to get to about 20%, isn't it? Or sorry, the RPM, percent RPM. Because it won't ignite until that gets fast enough. So we've got ignition on continuous. For the right engine. I guess you might have to put it on start, but we'll see. Okay, let's go and dive for the lake and see if we can get this gas producer speed to go any faster. Nope. Oh, it is slowly increasing, but not fast enough for it to affect us. No, we've got no hope. So I don't think you can restart the engines then, or at least I'm not following correct procedure to do it, but I've not read the book on it, so I'm guessing. So we're diving for the water, hoping against hope. Yeah, there's nothing doing with the percent RPM, just isn't shifting. Propeller speed is absolutely fine. But there's no torque, obviously, because the engine... Let's just try it once more. Put it to start. No, there's nothing happening. I wonder if we have to start it with it feathered, even if it's flying. Okay, so we're giving it a few moments. We put the igniters to start. Right, keep an eye on this needle. It's not having it, is it? Which is going to severely curtail our attempts. We may as well shut the engine down. So, well, it's already off, isn't it? That will teach us to fiddle with aeroplanes. I was looking at the instruments. I can't look at two things at the same time. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of adverse yaw. I'm holding the stick off all the time to the bottom left, so I'm holding left and back. So we may as well turn the right generator off as well. Have we got a closer airstrip we can go into? No, I think we may just have to make... Oh, we could go straight up the river. No, we'll go through to Nelson. I will make it. It'll be fine. That's a bit strange though that I couldn't restart in the air. Obviously, once I get onto the ground at Nelson, I should be able to. But it didn't like it. Should we try once more? Now everything's calmed down. So, fuel flow is on. Ignited to start. Yeah, the gas producer just isn't coming. Oh, on the ground you need an external power source. Let's see how stupid this is. So I've said I've got an external power source. Yeah, that's working. The external power source has done it. So even without one being there, it's still fine. I would have expected we couldn't do that. So that's something for the developer to have a look at, isn't it? And I no longer have to pull back and to the left all the time. The airplane is now flying as it should. So yeah, the temperatures are coming up. All the warnings have gone out. So we can now go and put that back to off. And the fuel pumps were still on. I left them on the whole time. Should we go and pull the time back? It's getting a bit dark, isn't it? You want to be able to see the runways at least. Well, you can't say we don't try things out. But yeah, the external supply shouldn't work when you're in the air, I wouldn't have thought. And you would have yeah, maybe they just haven't modelled it yet. This is version 1.0, remember. I'll have to have a read of the book, see what the correct procedure is for air starts. Or if they're implemented yet. It falls on people like me to meddle with these airplanes enough until they break. So I think I may call it at Nelson. Although it's not too far though, is it? It's only 17 miles on to West Kootenay. Let's see how we do. So the sun is somewhere behind those clouds over there. Should we try this on... We'll get rid of the weather for the last couple of legs and try it on... Oh my word. It's like a blowtorch, isn't it? Let's try it on few clouds. Whoa. That lit the cockpit up. So there's Nelson. So we'll be there soon. We don't want to be climbing too high though, hey? Quite a big town. Want to keep an eye on where we are, where we're going. Should we go down lower to the water? Because Nelson's obviously low altitude. Just to prove the radar does work, let's just level this out for a moment. I'll turn the rain on for a few moments to show you it. Yeah, look. It's lighting up like a Christmas tree, and we can see through the murk just about, and water streaming all over the windows in all directions. So let's go and open this back up. What other options do we get for storm? Don't think I've ever bothered with storm. Oh, thunder and lightning. Excellent. This will be Florida at the moment, I guess, or in the next 12 hours or so. So let's go and relieve ourselves of this horrific weather. Broken cloud, how about that? It is amazing, isn't it, this simulator? You can play with it endlessly. Just trying out maximum aileron deflection to see what happens. So you can see Nelson appearing in the sunshine down the end of the river. Can we put the tyres in the water? That's the next question. I'm approaching it very carefully. Oh, the view went wrong. Interesting. I got too close to the ground and the view didn't work anymore. So to do this, I guess, accurately, what we could do is move the time of day to midday, and then we'll get the shadow and the reflection underneath ourselves. Pop over the top of the bridge. Oh look, the cars are in the water. So it's our last go. I'm going full throttle. So there we go. There was the water. I don't really trust this to not go and dig in. So there's Nelson anyway. So if we loop around, Okay, carry on towards our destination. And we'll stay low. Imagine living down there. Well, that really is in the sticks, isn't it? Okay, let's go and have a quick look at the map while we have half a chance. So we're just heading out towards West Kootenay. I haven't been out in the Kodiak in Flight Sim for 2 years. I ought to go and get the Kodiak out, didn't I? That would be good fun. I remember the Kodiak, it's got that huge propeller on it, hasn't it? And they simulated the P effect from the propeller quite a lot. So it's slipstream effect. So you can get yourself into real trouble with it if you're not respectful of physics, basically. So if you're not aware of this, on the Kodiak, because it's got such a big propeller, you imagine the propeller is turning anti-clockwise. Is it clockwise or anti-clock? No, it's clockwise, sorry. Yeah, so from the pilot's perspective, the propeller is turning clockwise. So the angle of attack of the blades as you pitch up increases on the right side. So the aircraft pitches left quite strongly because it's such a big propeller. Enough so that if you do it when you're going slowly enough, it pitches left and drops the left wing because the left wing stalls. The number of times when the Kodiak first came out, I saw people putting it into the ground on takeoff because they accelerated too slowly, and they gave it more throttle to try to recover, which makes it worse because more throttle means more thrust on the right side of the propeller, which means more left rotation like that, and the wing drops and in you go. We're going the wrong way, aren't we? We want to stay that side of this hill. So steep turn. That's another thing that's in the instruction book, is maintaining a steep turn. Another one is circling around a point on the ground at a constant radius. It's something to practice. I think my favourite exercise, which you need a good turn coordinator for. Let's see how well it works in this one. It's lagging, isn't it? So it's an old analog instrument, so it will lag. But can we go beyond the marker? Yes, we can. Is flying coordinated standard turns, rate 1 standard turns as they call them, where you fly, if you fly with the wing on the marker accurately and in level flight, you will complete 360 degrees in 2 minutes. Yeah, that's why it says 2 minutes here, look. And if you do it well, it doesn't simulate it in the simulator at the moment. It might do in the new one, because the new one has oh, what's the word? It has the turbulence following the aircraft. So you might be able to fly into your own turbulence. Wake vortex, that's what I was trying to think of. So certainly in the real world, some friends of mine that have got pilot's licenses have said, yeah, when they were doing training, that was a real memory, doing rate 1 standard turns. And if you got it spot on, you would feel yourself, even after 2 minutes, that air was still churned up that you had flown through, and you feel it as the aeroplane passes back into it after the first turn. Well, the first circle. So it'll be interesting. I'm not sure how long they're going to make the vortex last for in 2024. The other thing that'll be fun to try will be flying across the runways at an international airport shortly after anything big has taken off, to see what happens. Or following a helicopter, or trying to get anywhere near a helicopter with a light aeroplane. There's some absolutely terrifying videos on YouTube of light aeroplanes approaching airfields shortly after helicopters had been nearby, and yeah, it's a proper hands over your eyes job to watch what happens. And there's our destination for the day. So, how are we going to do this? Do we go straight in or do we circle? The speed's coming off quite quickly. We should be able to double this back in and come straight in. This aeroplane's good at this sort of thing. Side slipping left to try and help us. There we go, straighten up. We're still obviously high, but this thing can come down very quickly. Look, it holds 80 knots pretty easily. Oh, this is a detailed airfield. Look, it's got fences and everything. Very good. It must have been part of the Canada pack. So we've got an ATR and another 3 ATRs, different liveries. Very cool. We just park here without any permission whatsoever. Very good. Okay. There we go. So welcome to Canada. So we are at West Kootenay Regional Airport in British Columbia, right on the borderline of the US. British Columbia is huge, isn't it? It's massive. It's about 4 Oregons you can fit inside British Columbia, maybe. No, more than that. 8 Oregons, maybe. Yeah, probably 8 Washington states. It's huge. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Apologies about the microphone issues earlier. I really didn't realise that the Windows update had affected all of the default settings for the devices. So, yeah, it should be good. But so I'm just reading the live stream comments. I didn't get a chance to have a look. So if the wake vortexes last for 6 minutes, that will be fantastic. That means you will be able to fly rate 1 turns and put the aircraft back into your own wake. Anyone who's played with DCS knows all about it, because if you're in a dogfight and you pass through the vortex of the plane in front of you, it plays havoc with you. Okay, there we go. I might have a few days off from the sim now because I've been kind of cranking the videos out recently and I'll run out of things to cover, to be honest. So I'll see you all again soon. Take care.